If you don't own anything, you are simply a slave.
Chuck Diesel.
We are all slaves. You may not want to admit that, but you have to accept that. Now, some of us are slaves to fashion. We're slaves to popular opinion. We're slaves to the newest model vehicle. We're slaves to whatever trend is currently trending. But those of us who have withdrawn ourselves from the need to be trendy, the need to follow trends, the need to be aware of everything that's going on and be a part of everything that's going on, following the fads as they come and go, we are simply what you might consider to be a house slave. If you are one who's completely caught up in everything, then you are a field slave. You see, there was a time when the terminology was that the field slave was more respectable than the house slave. But this is modern slavery. It is not the same. The field slave is the most idiotic one because he follows everything that's popular he wants to be a part of. He lives beyond his means in order to make people feel like he's into everything, in order to make people feel like he's up with the times. There is an old saying that trying to keep up with the Joneses is how you end up at the bottom of the barrel. You cannot keep up with the Joneses. There are two types of people on the planet. There are people who think about ways to make money, and there are people who think about ways to spend money. I'll tell you, think about this scenario. There are people in this society who get thousands of dollars back every time they file their income taxes. They don't make any money. They barely work. They don't worry about anything. They get food stamps. They get government assistance. They get housing assistance. They get child care assistance. And then when they file their taxes at the end of the year, they get $8,000 to $10,000 back. I think the most I've ever seen somebody get back was $12,000. And they lived in the projects or something similar to the projects. And by the time 2 months have passed, they are asking people for help with their bills. This is how this society works. You and I, we go, we grind, we try to be positive contributors to society. Those people who do nothing don't worry about anything. You see, we're allowed to make more money because we hustle, but we're also taxed more. Those people don't make any money. So while they're suffering throughout their year, getting mad at their situation, frustrated, wishing they could have a change, right before they cross over into the threshold where there's about to be some public unrest, they're rewarded with $8,000 to $12,000 income tax money. Bam, they're happy. That will hold them, that will pacify them to thwart their anger, to suppress their anger for almost that next year. And every time, by the time that anger comes back, they get that $8,000 to $12,000 again. Now, you and I, we don't get that $8,000 to $12,000. But what we do get is a better quality of life. What we do get is a better way of living. What we do get is more stuff, more chances to get more stuff. What we do get is the opportunity to make more money and live a better life, live in a safer environment, send our kids to better schools, drive better cars, wear better clothes, save a little something, maybe even invest in a little something. But at the end of the year, when tax time come around, we get our butt handed to us. And so we are pissed to know that we might have to pay something back. After all the money we paid in tax throughout the year, we still may owe more. And we're pissed. But then we go right back to our lives and we're making more money again. That's why the society is set up where after Christmas, the first of the year, the first quarter is the strong quarter. Everyone is waiting for the first quarter. After Christmas, the year starts over. People are in a great mood. They're feeling festive. They're feeling positive. They're feeling motivated to achieve their goals. They always start, the first quarter starts off strong. And you're pacified. You're okay. Because now you remember why you had to pay those taxes, why you didn't get any money back. You remember now that you make pretty good money. You're doing okay. So you see, there are ways to manipulate the slaves, and the slaves are being manipulated. You think about this. Think about this. There are people in this society, let's say like the overseer. If I was on the slave plantation, there's no way I'd want to be the overseer. I'd take my chances. You're not going to put me in a position where I am the punisher for the other slaves, for my peers. I'm just not going to go for that without some serious compensation. The compensation of just being that, it doesn't matter to me. It's like the movie Life. If you ever seen the movie Life, I'm not gonna be hopping Bob. Even though the warden said, you run afoul of Bob, you run afoul of me. I'm still not gonna be hopping Bob. But there are people who will take a title. I've seen people take a title at a job, make the same amount of money, and just because they got a title, they'll do the work that they used to do, and they'll dump more work on top of them. They'll do that too, and walk around with their chest poked out because they got a title. Walk around with their chest poked out, looking at you like, yeah, I tell you what to do now, and you probably make more money than they make. The craziest thing in the world, and this is the thing that made me vow that I would always try to be in business for myself. I saw a situation where a man had been on a job for 15 years, 16 years. He had been on a job for 16 years. Kept getting passed over for a promotion. Never made supervisor. He ended up leaving the job. Never made supervisor. The last straw for him was when they brought in this 22-year-old kid who had no experience, had never had a job a day in his life, fresh out of college, and made him this guy's supervisor. He couldn't take it anymore. That was the end of it. But he'll never get the 16 years back. But it is the slave mentality. It is the mentality that I will take what massa gives. I will take what they give and I will make it work. That is a defeatist mentality. You can never live the life that you want to live if you're willing to take whatever they give. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And you can't possibly believe that you can't just focus on the money, man. Unless there's a lot of money. You have to be able to see yourself growing financially. And a lot of people, man, most of us don't care about growing financially. Most of us are perfectly content with the American way of working until you can't work anymore, until you're not productive, and depending on what they told you you've got for retirement and Social Security, which none of us here are going to get Social Security. There won't be, they're robbing, they're taking money from other sources to pay Social Security. Now, there is no money left in the Social Security fund. It's gone. It's been gone. So you can't bank on that. So what are you going to do? You're going to live a life, work as hard as you can until you can't work anymore. And then when you can't work anymore, you're going to be in a position where you've got to, just try to scrape by with what you can, or you got to go back to work. The worst thing in the world is to retire and go back to work. Now, I know people who, the decorator for the commercial space. She retired she was a nurse practitioner, retired and jumped right into interior decorating, her own interior decorating business. You see, that is how you do it. You don't retire from your job and end up going to take a lesser job because you realize that all that time you worked, you still can't live a comfortable life now that you're retired. It doesn't make sense. But it's the way it is set up. It is set up for you to believe that there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and then you realize that it ain't even no damn rainbow. It's a strip of paper that someone's painted different colors and put it up on the wall. And all this time you've been thinking it's a rainbow. There is no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's a pot. The gold has been gone. So you can't afford to live in a fantasy world. Look at the people who've done it before you. How many people do you know who worked until they were 62 or 65, whatever the age is now? I think it's 62 now. How many people do you know who've worked a job until they were 62 and now they live comfortably? And people say, well, it's not about living comfortably. It's not about balling out. The hell you say? If I work somewhere 25 years, 30 years until I'm 65 years old, I'd be damned if I don't want to ball when I'm done. Listen, if everyone's doing it, it doesn't work. That's why the 1% is the 1% and the 99% is what it is. If everyone's doing it, it doesn't work. Period. Anything that everyone's doing doesn't work. So when you see somebody taking, you see some people drinking these teas or doing all this crap, they sell a whole lot until people realize, man, it doesn't work. There is no quick way to lose weight. There is no quick way there's no quick way to get fit. That's a quick way to lose weight. Stop smoking crack, you'll lose weight. But there's no quick way to get fit, to get in shape, to recapture your health. So it's a terrible thing to see someone who's already worked their fingers to the bone until they were 65, and then they got to go back out and get some little bull crap, demeaning job, man. Menial labor is for young people who don't have any experience. It is not for people who've been working a job for years, man. That is not the type of person you want to see. It pains me, man, to see an older person, especially an older Black person. Because 9 times out of 10, if you're Black and you got to go back to work, you worked a pretty tough job when you were working. So physically, you don't have what it takes to continue working a job, but you're forced to. And you know what happens? We don't have any programs. We don't have any scenarios set up to where a person like that can be helped, to where a person like that can be assisted. We live in a situation where this is how you can tell if your view is the view of a slave. You look around and you see other people struggling and it doesn't bother you. You look around and you see the elders living bad lives and it doesn't bother you. You look around and you see your peers struggling to grasp what it takes to be successful and it doesn't bother you. So that is the mentality of someone who's used to living in that squalor, who's used to being in that environment, who's used to it for themselves. And so it's normal for them to see other people struggling. Now, how many people do you know who have that life? How many people do you know who have that life? So, you have to accept. This is the thing, man. And I say this and I'll say it all the time. You deserve what you accept. If you accept being grossly underpaid for doing a service or a job, man, that's what you deserve. But you also deserve what you demand. If you know your worth and you demand that, you deserve that. But you don't believe you deserve that if you accept less than that. It is virtually impossible. You cannot live a life every day where you working your butt off. You working your fingers to the bone, you grinding. And then at the end of the month, after you pay your bills, you ain't got nothing. And sometimes you're not even living beyond your means. There are people who don't even live great lives, who that is their story. Do you understand the concept of living check to check? Living check to check is poverty, man. If you don't have enough money put to the side where you can sustain your life for at least 6 months, if your income stops, you are poor. You are broke, man. That's why I say, man, practice minimalism. Everything you buy is taking money from your coffer, from the coffer you need in order to sustain yourself. Listen to, our lives are stressful. If you have to go to work every day because you need your check to pay your bills, you are living in poverty. Just because there are people who live worse than you, those people are living in third world country conditions. You can't compare I never compare myself to the people who are living in third world country conditions and say, well, at least I'm doing better than them. It could be worse. I don't look at it from the perspective of it could be worse. I look at the billionaires and I say it could be better. It should be better. You can't just sit and accept your plight simply because you can look down your nose at someone else and say, well, I'm doing better than them. That's idiotic, man. It makes no sense. You are going to look at yourself and if you're living check to check, you're in no better shape than them. As a matter of fact, look at it from this perspective. If you're living check to check and you're paying your bills and you're living okay, you got some nice stuff, nice spot. Now, if you're living check to check, you are actually in worse shape than someone who's living in the projects. Because you know what they're not doing? Stressing about their check. Stressing about not being able to take that. Man, if you can't take days off when you're sick, you're in bad shape, man. The majority of people don't have a right to brag about anything because the majority of people have a negative net worth. If your net worth is negative, that means you owe more than you make. That means you owe more than you have. That means you owe more than you're worth. If you owe more than you're worth, your balance is less than zero in the world, man. And you know what we do? We'll have no money, but we'll be the type who struggle. I mean, we struggle to make sure we pay those bills on time. Won't even pay ourselves. We'll be broke, but we'll be current. And you know what happens? They look at you and they say, now that boy there, that boy's a good one. That gal there, that gal's a good one. Let's send her credit card. Let's send her credit card off. Let's send that old boy that old credit card off. Let's see if we can get that old boy there to trade that car in and get him another. Matter of fact, let's see if we can get that old boy there to keep that car he's got and buy another. Let's offer this old boy here a chance to get $100 off the $1,000 iPhone 10. You know, let's see if we can let's see if we can get this old fella here to come over here and get one of these old upside down mortgages on a brand new home. That's what they do. If you are in this society and you are trapped in the matrix, you are a debt slave. You are a debt slave. If every single thing you have is being paid for monthly, you are a debt slave. You are going to working as hard as you possibly can because you owe so many people. You are going to work, making sure you get as many hours as you can. You don't want to miss any time. You don't take any vacation. Man, I know people who've been at a job for over 10 years and have never taken a vacation. They just cashed their and now those jobs have gotten smart. They don't let your vacation days roll over year by year, so where you end up with 10 weeks of vacation time. No, you either gotta use it or cash it out at the end of the year. And in some places, you either use it or you lose it. Now, what kind of environment is that for you to be in when you work as hard as you can and you can't even take any time off? And there are people who are entrepreneurs who are in the same shape. You can't even live your life because you have to go make every single dollar you can. And I'm telling you, that's the situation that a lot of men get caught up in. Let me tell you something. A single man is more likely to be in the black than a man who is married. A married man is almost always in debt, big debt. Debt for a house, debt for a car or two. Then he ain't got nothing to do. He's given up his free life to where he could just go hang out with a new chick if he want to. So he has to find new ways to entertain himself. So he may have a boat that he's paying for. He may have a bike that he's paying for. He may have some golf club membership that he's paying for. He may have some fish camp or some hunting camp membership that he's paying for. Before you know it, he's making $150,000 a year. And he can't even go shopping unless he does it on his credit cards. Slaves don't think about building income. They don't think about building generational wealth. If you're not saving, you're slaving. When is the last time you sat in a room with your partners, with your family, with anyone, with a woman, and discussed creating generational wealth? My son's mom and I discuss it all the time because we have our next generation together. We want to create generational wealth. Let me tell you something about black kids and white kids. For the most part, there's a curse we got to break by wising up instead of being spending monkeys. You have to understand, man, that let's take white kids and black kids. For the most part, there are exceptions to every rule. I know plenty of white kids who started off already on a higher level than his contemporaries would ever get to. They start off on a higher level than we will ever get to. And think about yourself and think about your stuff and not have the wherewithal to say, you know what, let me break this generational curse of growing up broke.
Trying to become the most alpha version of you. Trying to become the most alpha version become the most alpha version of you. Fighting to become the most alpha version of you. Welcome to the alphasphere. Get money division. The place where you transform into a man on a mission.